of people who are very much emergency minded. They're plugged in with the emergency network. They're part of the emergency combo that every county and state uses during emergencies. They're already part of that network. Plug in, learn ham radio, get your ham radio license, and while you're at it, you're also building a network of mutually very like-minded folks. You'll plug into that network, and you can help them expand it. So all of these things that are already there. If you have search and rescue, a volunteer fire department in your county, join it. Go join it and plug into that as well. And just help beef up and expand whatever institutions you do have. Search and rescue, volunteer fire, sheriff's auxiliaries, things like that you might have already that have just been allowed to atrophy and are kind of minimally staffed. Go flesh them out. Wake up all the veterans you possibly can, especially focus on the veterans. At least with veterans, you understand this. With veterans, you've got guys who at one point in their life understood what it meant to have contingency plans. Okay? They do know that. They've had training. They know how to train the worst case scenarios, and they're not afraid to think like that. So that's why I would say focus your energy on them. Trying to get your average potato slug off the couch to go do stuff is almost impossible. But your average veteran, you can still wake him back up. You have to look at it like this. What you're doing with veterans is you're reactivating them. You're just waking up a sleeping giant. So that's how it really is. If we can wake up every veteran in this country and get them to see what's happening, get them to see that this is being planned. It is being planned. You can just play the George Soros tape for them. Go find it on YouTube and email it to them and say, hey, look, this is what they're going to do to us. You, as a veteran, have a responsibility to stop it. And the way you stop it is that you put in place an alternative. So when they kill the dollar, you can say, fine, we don't need it. We have constitutional money in our states. And we have a strong state that will stand up and interpose itself between the people and the power elites and any international institutions that they think that they're going to use against us. And I've had some folks ask about martial law. Well, here's the best way to counteract martial law. Of course, on the one hand, we continue to do what we've been doing from the start with Oath Keepers, is go out there and talk to the current serving about not obeying orders that violate your rights, like confiscating your food supplies. If you look at a list of 10 orders that we will not obey, we put out, you'll notice that they focus a lot. One of them is we will not confiscate the food or other essential supplies of the American people. Another one is we will not confiscate their firearms. We are doing what we can right now to get them to think ahead of time. And I know not every current serving has heard about Oath Keepers. So we still have a lot of work to do there. Get out there and beat the bushes and get a hold of every current serving you possibly can and send them either the video or the written version of the full-length version of the 10 orders we will not obey. It goes through a lot of history and explains a lot. And eventually we'll turn that into a Oath Keepers handbook that you can give to them as well. Because certainly a lot of them are afraid to go on websites like Oath Keepers, and for good reason. They're concerned about being targeted and being purged within their job. And I believe it's a valid concern. That's the advantage of you printing up something. You can burn a copy of our DVD. I don't care. You can make as many copies as you like. Go on YouTube and download any of our videos there. As long as you don't change the content, you're more than welcome to burn DVDs and give them out to current serving military. You're more than welcome to download copies of our 10 Orders Declaration and give them to these people in paper. It can't be traced. It can't be tracked. No one will know who's reading it. That's great. They can pass it around among their unit. And, of course, give them a pocket Constitution. And one other thing I would give them is a copy of Skaldin's book, 5,000 Year Leap. I think it's fantastic. It's really one of the better books out there. Give them those things as a start, but encourage them to go read the Constitution and to go read the Federalist Papers and learn their own history. And if they understand that, if they go and learn their own history and their own heritage and read the Constitution and the Federalist Papers for themselves, if they do that, they won't be fooled. And so they'll know what's right. But the other side of that equation, though, is look, if you are weak and destitute, like they were in the aftermath of Katrina, if people are not prepared, what's going to happen is the military and police are far more likely to go along with martial law because in their mind will be a real emergency. And a lot of your own neighbors will be clamoring for it and wanting the FEMA trucks to come in and for the federal government to take over your state. So if you don't want to see that happen, make it unnecessary. Become so strong in your community and your state that you don't need outside help. And so that the powers that be will not have a pretext. They won't have an excuse to come into your state, and the military and police much more likely to say, sorry, Mr. President, they don't need our help. So why are you telling us? When they're telling us they don't want our help and to stay out of their state, why are you ordering us to go in there? You're more likely to get more of them who will say no and who will stand down and refuse to comply. And then it'll be up to us, the American people, to take back this republic and rebuild it from the very bottom up. And on the topic of security, it's also critically important that we must revitalize our militias in our states. You have to, okay? You've got to do it. I would do it as a public institution. Start with your county. Pressure your county commissioners to establish a committee of safety made up of those on the county commissioners, but also the sheriff and the fire chief, which makes perfect sense. And they could write the regulations and establish the methods for which you would appoint your officers or elect your own officers, and then form a volunteer county militia. You're kind of like a volunteer fire department. It is a county public institution, but it's staffed by volunteers. You know, when I served on a volunteer fire department, I wasn't paid a dime. But I did it out of, because I understood it was the closest thing we had left to a militia. And that's kind of civic mindedness you will find in your community, especially among your veterans. So tap into that, revitalize that institution. It's the last thing power elites want you to do. They're terrified of you starting a militia. That's why they demonize that word so much. That's why I say you should do it as your county. And then eventually in your state, by state statute, a real deal state militia. But work at the county level first, get that squared away. Do your best to get it passed by the state. If you can, great. But I would say at least do it in your county. But don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't think to yourself, well, if the county doesn't do it, it doesn't get done. Also start a neighborhood watch so that you will still have, a staff, a pool of volunteers in your neighborhood and expanding out to your whole county who are there. And if they're self-supplied and they're trained, and they train ahead of time through, like, say, the ham radio network and things like that, if you were squared away and unified in your neighborhoods, it'd be very easy to link up neighborhood watch with neighborhood watch. And under emergency conditions, there's your militia if you need it. But I would say do it if you can ahead of time officially. And the big advantage of doing it officially like that is, well, first of all, if you're a government institution, it's much more difficult for the feds to come in and screw with you, because now they're dealing with the state. They're dealing with a sovereign state and with its sovereign immunity. And so it's kind of like the sheriff. The sheriff has some sovereign immunity, some protection, because he is part of the state government rather than just an individual. Same goes for your militia. So do all you can to revitalize it. Look at it like this, like two pillars. On the one side, I'm trying to revitalize public institutions like the militia, like sound money by county ordinance or by state statute. But on the other hand, I'm also building up private institutions, volunteer associations as individuals, families, communities, etc., and in churches. Every church in this country, every single church in this country should be doing what the LDS church does. When you go down and visit the LDS storehouse, you'll see, a big building full of rice and beans and wheat, powdered milk, and all kinds of stuff. And they have even more that they give away as charity. That's how they, frankly, that's how they recruit a lot of members of the church, poor people who need help. Which church would they rather go to? One that helps them feed their kids, or one that just talks and talks and talks and does nothing else? So, really, a lot of churches should be doing exactly the same thing that the LDS church is doing. And the same goes for VFW halls and, American Legion halls. Don't just get together and have a few beers. Get together and get your commo squared away. What are you going to do if the internet gets shut down? What are you going to do if the phone lines go down? How are you going to feed your families? There's no reason why every VFW hall should have a back room full of rice and beans and wheat. Beans, bullets, and Band-Aids also in the VFW hall. Every single one of them. Every veteran organization should have that. If you don't, quite frankly, you're abdicating your responsibility and you're not keeping your oath if you don't do these things. This is critical. We got to get squared away on food, on security, commo, water supply and sanitation, all the things you're going to need under duress, and then get squared away supporting and revitalizing a sovereign state. Let me answer one question here. Martial law is implemented. I've heard more than a week's supply would be construed as hoarding and be confiscated. Well, that's why you need a sheriff in your county who will not go along with that and will stand up and say no and won't take part. And you also need to have, like I said, the county militia. So if you're squared away and there's no reason for the feds to come in, it's much more likely that they'll stay out because the soldiers, the rank and file, just won't do it. And if you don't need their help, and further, your sheriff is standing up and saying, you are not welcome here. Our legislature has not invited you in, and I will not let you confiscate the food supplies of the citizenry. That's what you need. And somebody else asked me a little while ago about what do you do for a safe place to live. I would say, quite frankly, I moved to Montana for a very good reason. Okay, so I'm done talking, and we'll wait for questions and answers.
All right, thank you very much, Stuart. Really good information, and I'm going to tackle just some questions very quickly to answer, and then we'll direct the questions to Stuart Rhodes. Kirk Elliott's having difficulty. I'll answer. Stuart and I will both answer questions that would be directed to Kirk. But someone asked what the alternative market site was, and it's alternative. Well, it was at alt-market.com, Stu.
It's alt-market.com. Just a horizontal dash. ALT, horizontal dash, and then market.com. If you just do a Google for alternative market project, you'll get it. It'll pop up.
Great. And the other one was prominentliving.org for the Mormons' solution to food, correct? These are some...
Right, Providence, like Providence. Providence.
Oh, Providence.
Right, Provident Living, like the word Providence, providentliving.org. And once again, you just do a search for Provident Living, will pop up.
Okay, great. A couple of other quick sites while we're running through the websites and we're jotting this information down. Providentliving.org, alt-market.com. Obviously, also, for those that are not familiar, oathkeepers.org. Oathkeepers.org. Become a member of the Oath Keepers if you are not, or at least visit the site and find out what's going on. Also, you can visit Kirk with a K, Kirk Elliott, 2 L's, 2 T's, KirkElliottPhD.com for precious metal solutions and understanding of the geopolitical and economic landscape. I'm giving out some sites also, a bit off topic tonight, but everything is related. I encourage you to learn about Tim Cox's revolution, if you want to call it, and that's GOOOH.com. GetOutOfOurHouse.com, a system to cleanse the House of Representatives and replace them with citizen candidates. So those are some sites. Also, learn about CampaignForLiberty.com and get behind Ron and Rand Paul's bill to audit the Federal Reserve, and pay close attention to both of these gentlemen. And they've got great information. I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here, but just in case, CampaignForLiberty.com and on AssetPreservationInstitute.org. We've got a YouTube channel with about 90 interviews, relatively recent, some posted last week, and also links to all of these sites we've mentioned and many, many more along the subject lines of what we've been talking about in this conference. So AssetPreservationInstitute.org. I'm going to take a couple of questions that Kirk would have taken, and we'll just run through these. We've got hundreds of questions. One question is, let's see. Oh, where do we begin? Okay, how much silver should I buy if I can't afford too much silver? And the answer to that, in my view, would be you'd want to look towards quarters and dimes pre-1965 because they were made with 90% silver. and you can acquire these in small amounts, perhaps at low